Our final topic of this chapter is the classified balance sheet. This is also a pretty short topic. As a reminder, the balance sheet shows our assets, liabilities, and equity accounts. The accounts are already put into these categories. What we are going to be doing now is putting these accounts into additional categories. I call them subcategories. We will group similar assets and similar liabilities together. This helps in analyzing the financial statements of a company and calculating certain ratios, which are covered in the Accounting 2 course. Let's first go over the subcategories for the assets. The first is current assets. These are assets that are expected to be sold, collected, or used within 1 year. These are our most liquid assets. It includes cash, supplies, inventory, and prepaid expenses, to name a few. When deciding if an asset is current, ask yourself if it will turn to cash or be used in full within the year. The next subcategory is long-term investments. These are expected to be held for more than 1 year. This can include stock and bond investments. Next is plan assets. This category can also be called PP&E, which stands for property, plant, and equipment. These are our tangible, long-lived assets used to produce or sell products and services. Examples would be our capital assets, such as buildings, equipment, furniture, vehicles, land, and so on. We use these assets for many, many years, not just one. If these assets are used in the operations of the business, they will be in this category. I would like to point out that these could also be long-term investments if they have been purchased solely as an investment and not used in a business's operations. The final subcategory of assets is intangible assets. Intangible assets are long-term resources used to produce or sell products and services and lack a physical form. We will cover intangible assets in detail in Chapter 10. Examples of these include patents, copyrights, trademarks, and more. But for now, you can just learn these few. Now we will go over the subcategories for the liability accounts. First, we have current liabilities. These are obligations due within 1 year. Next, we have long-term liabilities. These are obligations not due within 1 year. So for the liabilities, if it is due in under a year, it is current. And if it is due in over a year, it is long-term. Some accounts can be both, but I don't want to confuse you for this chapter. But let's say you have a 30-year mortgage. Since it is over a year, it would be long-term. However, you are making some payments this year. The portion that you are paying this year would be current, and the amounts you would be paying for the remaining 29 years would be long-term. You do not have to worry about that for this course, though. I just want you to be aware of that concept. Lastly, the equity section does not have any subcategories. Owner's capital would be the only account in this section. Let me show you an example of a classified balance sheet. This is the balance sheet for Amazon, since we're all familiar with that company. I just want to show you that they have assets and then some subcategories such as current assets, and then they list all their current assets. Then they have property and equipment net, which is the plant assets category. They don't have everything listed individually, they group it together into this one category. Then they have some other items that you're not familiar with, but just letting you know, goodwill is an intangible asset. Now looking at the liabilities and equity section, they have the current liabilities, as we just went over, and then they have the long-term items after that. Their stockholders' equity section looks a little different than what you're used to because we've only been dealing with sole proprietorships, small companies, and this here is a corporation. So if this was a small company, then it would just be capital. You wouldn't have any stock in here. This is something we learn in accounting too. Let's practice putting accounts into these subcategories. This is our last classwork problem, number 3. Select the balance sheet category where the items given would typically appear. we're going to put these accounts into one of those subcategories. A, land not currently used in operations. Which category do you think that would be? Now, normally land is a plant asset, but because it's not used in operations, it would be a long-term investment. If it was just land and then it didn't say anything afterwards, it would be plant assets. B, notes payable due in 5 years. Remember, notes payable would be a liability. Since it's due in 5 years and not in under one, it would be a long-term liability. C, accounts receivable. We know it's an asset. What kind of asset would it be? It would be a current asset because this is when our customers owe us money and they should be paying us in under a year definitely. D, trademarks. Do you remember which category I said this was for? This is one of the intangible assets. E, accounts payable. It's a payable, so we know it's a liability. Is it current or is it long term? This is when we owe money to other businesses such as our suppliers. When do we need to pay them? It should definitely be in under a year. It's probably in under 30 days. This would be current. F, store equipment. Since it's equipment and we're going to be using it over a long period of time, not just 1 year, it would be a plant asset. G, wages payable. It's a payable, so we know it's a liability, and this would be for us paying our workers or our employees. It's wages. When do we need to pay them? Definitely in under a year, right? Probably within a couple weeks. It would be current liabilities. Lastly, we have H, which is cash. Cash is our most liquid asset because it's already cash. This would be a current asset. This concludes the Chapter 4 PowerPoint. If you are stuck on any of these topics, please watch the publisher videos or the other YouTube videos that I provided for you.